Hello boys and girls, today I'm going to paint my Howard Arkley style house that I've traced and then blown up and photocopied onto some nice quality cartridge paper. And I've got a few different paintbrushes here that I'm going to talk to you about, and I've got the watercolour paints that have come out of the bottle. They have dried up a fair bit, so I'm going to need to activate them with the water, which I'll do in a moment. I want to explain to you about a couple of different paintbrushes. I have here a few different sizes but also different shapes, and you'll notice the ones that have a flat brush or some that are pointed, they're crimped around here in the metal piece, so you might want to be considerate about which paintbrushes you choose when you're painting in different areas. I like the wide flat ones when I'm doing areas that are flat and broad like here, or the pointed little ones when I'm doing small pointed areas like in here. Okay, now then I also want to have my water ready, and I've got the plan that I did about what my colour scheme is going to be for my house. So I'm doing warm colours on my house. My roof is going to be more of a red colour, and the trim is going to be more of an orange red. And then I've got a contrast or an opposite colour for my windows, and quite a variety of greens for the garden. Okay, now I would recommend you start in a small area when you're getting familiar with how to fill in the watercolour. Don't start with the largest area first. Start with a small area while you're getting familiar with how to use the watercolour paints. I'm going to wet my brush, and I'm going to start mixing up some greens because these are the smallest areas. Start mixing up some greens. So to make green, I need to activate my yellow. So I'm getting water and just swooshing it around, not pressing too hard because I don't want to damage my brush. And I'm going to start making a little pile or puddle of yellow. And wash off my brush. Get off some of that yellow off my brush, because then I'm going to start activating the blue to pick up the blue and then mix it in to make a green, a separate little pile of green. Now this is quite a dark green, quite a teal blue green, so maybe I want a bit more yellow in there, but you'll be looking at your plan to see what kind of colours you've mixed up. And then I'm using my small tipped pointed sort of brush to do some small areas as I'm starting off. Because I've mixed a good amount of the colour, I won't have to run out and mix it again. I want to work quite quickly so it doesn't dry in between. If I can get a more block colour, that's ideal. And to get more of a block colour, it helps if the whole area is still damp or wet. I'm going to mix up a bit more blue into the green to make a slightly different green shade, or hue, sorry, different shade, hue of green for this different plant. Okay, next I'm going to go onto this larger area of lawn, and because this is a much larger area, I'm going to swap from the smaller brush to a larger brush so I can see if I can get a more even matte flat block colour with the brush, which is quite challenging. So I want to mix up a good amount of the colour that I want, so I won't run out and have to mix up more, in which case the hue might change slightly as I go across the lawn. So I'm going to try and mix up a good amount of what I need to begin with, so I won't run out by the time I get to the other half of the lawn. Okay, that might be enough. I'm thinking about the flatness of this brush, so rather than using the side, I'm using the flat direction of the brush. I'm going to bring it up close here, and what I like to do is put down the brush and then bring it up close to the edge as I'm watching it very carefully. I'm putting it down close and then bringing the bristles up to the edge. Doing the same thing here, bringing it up to the edge and then moving the bristles along without picking up the brush. And now I'm going to use long strokes to fill that area, hopefully get it as flat as possible. Now going around these small areas here, I might like to swap to my smaller brush to get in around, but using the same colour. I want a colour here, but I actually find that sometimes going next to a colour that it's still wet is not necessarily a good idea. When they cross, they sometimes bleed into each other, colours mix into each other. So sometimes when you're doing an edge like I did here, it would have been best if I'd left it to dry first before I then touched it up. So I'm actually going to move on to my windows, which has got a bit of a gap. Now they're a greeny blue because my house is going to be a warm colour, and that's the opposite. Remember, we chose our windows to be a contrasting colour to our house. Again, I'm using the flat wide brush to fill in the windows because they're a large area. Putting it down and then coming right up to the edge with the tip or the edge of those bristles. And then flattening it out while it's still damp. Okay, next I'm going to do my roof because there's a fair gap between and it's not going to get blended while the other bit's dry. But I'm going to make sure that my brush doesn't have any green or blue left on it because I'm going to do like a red-orange roof. And if it has blue on there, it's going to start looking a bit purple. I'm also going to rotate my piece of paper around so I can reach more easily without smudging the other areas. Now if you want pure red, that's totally fine, but if you want to make a bit of an orangey red, you don't want to mix in where I've got the green there because that's just going to turn into a brown. Also, if your water's getting quite coloured, you might like to change it. I'm using my large flat brush to do the roof Okay, I've cleaned my plate a little bit because all the colours started coming together, and I've got a marker for doing some clouds in the sky. We're going for that cartoon block look, but it doesn't mean I really want the kind of Simpsons clouds. I'm going to go for something a bit more textured maybe. Those sort of long kind of clouds. Thank you, Davika. I've borrowed a spare photocopy I had of yours to do this painting. Okay, I've also cleaned my water. And now I'm going to do my garage, which I planned on doing a purple and a driveway, a sort of a magenta colour. So with the purple here, we're going to use quite a large brush again. I'm going to start activating it. This is a really fantastic violet colour, but I think I want it a little bit more blue than this. So I'll pick up a bit of blue. That's a nice colour. And then just make sure I've got enough to fill in that area of the driveway over here. Okay, now I'm moving on to the smallest parts now, the trim, doing that at the very end. And again, this is going to be analogous with my house and my roof, so I'm going for a red-orange. I've also just made a really light blue to fill in those clouds, so it's not such a stark white in contrast and looking unfinished. I have filled in the clouds, just made them really light blue because clouds are never perfectly white. You can see the shadows and things in them, so that makes it a bit interesting. So finally at the end, I've just trimmed off these edges, just taking off the slightest amount, 1 centimetre or ½ centimetre, just trimming off all the little excess bit just to make it look really finished.